Looks good. Yes, you're welcome to enter questions in the chat if you have them. Then there may or may not be time at the end for some additional questions. You can always email me or our team if you have any follow-up. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. So today I'm going to be talking about template updates. I'm Alex. I'm the ATAC coordinator with the program. Our engineering manager, Eric, too, is here as well, along with a couple others from our engineering team and program team that are present here. All the new templates that have been updated, the task proposal template, cost effectiveness tool, full test template, tables, and the task checklist have all been uploaded to the website. The ATAC program guide should be updated very shortly, but I have the notes on what's going to be updated in there. And then we are waiting on the Department of Education to update the schools template. I think if just a few minor changes to that. But once we get approval from them, that will be uploaded as well. And it'll reflect the changes made to the full task template. So expect similar changes on that one. Just a reminder, please stay muted during this. You can ask questions in the chat at any time. And we'll jump right into the first template. So the task proposal template saw a fairly minor update, but we do have some restrictions that we're putting on it now. So we updated the tables. We have a better place for site information, savings, and timeline. Before, those were all kind of listed as a bulleted narrative format for you to add those. They each have a place in a table now to add them. Oh, are we? Someone's giving me feedback. Not the good kind. If you would please mute, thank you. Each EEM, also the information is going to have its own table now. We know all EEMs aren't typically identified at the proposal stage. That's fine, but please just copy the table in there, and I'll pull that up in a minute. The big change here is the fee ratio. I talked about this at the ATAC forum. Task proposals must have an estimated fee ratio of at least 1.5. So what this means is that the estimated incentive is at least 1.5 of the study fees being requested. And this is the uncapped incentive. So you take your estimated savings multiplied by the current custom incentive rate, which is 45 cents per kilowatt hour and $5 per therm. And that's the estimated incentive. So that needs to be at least 1.5, at least 1.5 to the study fee. Over the past 4 years, 90% of all proposals submitted already met this requirement. So this isn't the huge change, but for those that didn't, we want to make sure that we're looking at projects that have a significant incentive change on the compared to the study fees. And then there are going to be few exempt buildings from this. Affordable multifamily, nonprofit and government, and small businesses will not need to meet this requirement. I did see a question come through. This would be, so that's annual. So the savings are annualized for the proposals. Dan, your question about how long are the savings for the fee ratio, that would be the annual savings from the measure. All right, and I will pull up the proposal template right here. So no changes to the front page here. One of the bigger changes is that we added the version numbers to all the footers now and remove them from the document titles. This is probably my working version, but when you download them from the website, you'll notice it's just generic now. So online, this is probably EB task proposal template with no versioning in the file name or the URL. So please make sure that the file version in the footer matches the one that's online, or use the one online every time. It'll be the most up to date. The project overview table has been updated with the proposed study format, so please indicate which of the study formats you plan on using, whether it's full, streamlined, or the schools task. And then we've added a timeline section here, just so this information used to be kind of buried at the end of the proposal template. So it now has a home up near the top. And then for each measure, that's been identified at this point, we have a table here, and just go ahead and copy the table for additional measures. So include the existing description, proposed, estimated savings for both, and then the measure cost, and then any additional information about how you plan to do this or context that might be necessary. We understand every measure is not identified at the proposal stage. That's fine. Just include those details in here about what you're anticipating to find with the study and what you're going to look at. And then scope of work, this is more general about what the ATAC is going to do. This shouldn't be EEM specific, but about what the whole scope of work for this task will entail. And then down here, a section for the fees. And we didn't add a box or a place to put the fee ratio in here. That's something we're going to calculate when we look at this. If you feel that would be helpful, we'd be happy to add that on a future update. But we did put down here, we updated the proposal evaluation criteria as to what we're going to look at when we evaluate proposals. And then also added a checklist at the bottom here just to make sure that all the necessary pieces are included. If the 100E and utility bills have already been submitted for the project, you don't need to include those. But if you are submitting a proposal for the first time with a new client of yours, we are going to need that 100E and utility bills before we can do anything with the project. Then just noting that those tables are filled out. And then we are going to ask that the cost effectiveness calculator tool is included when task proposals are submitted. So I will go over that tool. Hopefully all of you have used it. If not, I will show you where to find it and how to use it. And please include those with the submissions. That way we can see the cost effectiveness of the measures and associated info as proposed. And then make sure that you include the fee and the estimated timeline. So that's the updates to the proposal template. I'll head back to the slide deck here. The cost effectiveness tool, no major changes to it. It's been updated with CEC values for 2025. I did hear from someone that there's a bug with Office 2019. Apparently pull that over here. These dropdowns aren't being selectable. That might just be for the desktop version. I believe that works in the browser-based version, but just be careful if you're noticing some sort of bug, please let us know and we can work on getting it addressed. This is the cost effectiveness tool. There's a T's and C's page, as well as instructions how to use this document. And then on the calculator tab, the version is up in has its own cell here. And then there's a bunch of information for you to enter. When you're utilizing this, please make sure all these fields at the top are filled out. They don't need to be entirely accurate, but I believe zip code, sector, and utility, state, zip code, sector, and utility do impact the cost effectiveness criteria. So make sure those are all accurate when you're filling this out. And then down here on each line, you'll enter the measures. So you can enter the measure name, the subsector that you're looking at, whatever it might be, if it's retro commissioning or not, the load profiles for that building, measure life, estimated savings, cost, and then if there are any NEVs, that those are included here. If you're working in a place that has a non-eligible gas or non-eligible electric utility, and those are selected here, if you put those savings in either the kilowatt hour savings or the respective savings here or the non-energy benefits, it will calculate them the same way. So if this is a non-participating electric utility, those 100,000 kilowatt hours could be here. Or let me change this so it gives us a no. All right, so they can be here in kilowatt hours, or you can use the cost equivalent over here for whatever the blended rates should be in here. Whatever the blended rate is for kilowatt hours, if you want to multiply it out over here, it would work. So let's see, somewhere around there, I think. Just letting you know that if you have a non-participating utility, you can use these columns interchangeably when it calculates. That's an overview of the cost effectiveness tool. Where
Hey,
to?
Alex,
Yeah, go ahead.
do you want to take a quick moment here just to note where we use the measure life and what we reference as the measure life table so that's clear for everybody on how we evaluate those?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to speak to that?
Oh, well, it's simply the table that's in the ATAC guide or it's in the template, right? The SP1149 table that has the measure lives on it.
Yes, it is at the bottom of the task template, uh, that table. So when you're entering measure life on the cost effectiveness tool, you can use this template, use the table which is provided by Odo on estimated measure lives for various equipment. And a copy of that is at the bottom of the full task template and the school's task template is there as well. I will see if we can get a link um, put into this too and an update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. All right, so those are the updates to the cost effectiveness tool. Next up is the full task template. So we've made a lot of changes to this, although I think a lot of them are pretty intuitive and I wouldn't consider them necessarily major. A couple cleanup things. All the tables are now titled and numbered. So if you're referencing a table, you're welcome to use the table number. We've changed the way a few things are arranged within the document and then really expanded on the EEM sections. So there are dedicated spots for baseline and existing conditions relevant to that measure, whereas before the baseline and existing conditions space was just general. So it's generalized across the whole report. And so there was a lot of we found that our review team was doing a lot of referencing between those two sections. So like existing baseline and then down to the EEM and back and forth and back and forth. And that the report writers, all of you, were kind of doing the same thing. So we put those in the same place so they can be easily referenced in the report, and then updated the instructions so that they're all within brackets. So that is just instructional. Anything in brackets is instructional for how to write and put together the report. All before I open that, all of these reports can be found on the ATAC website. So I will drop that link into chat for everyone. I share this out in pretty much every email on where and how to find this, but I'm going to go through it real quick here. There is no dedicated link from the commercial page to the ATAC website, so you're not going to be able to navigate to it through here. The only way to get there is to search ATAC materials, um, or probably just might be able to just type ATAC, and the link will be right there to that page. Let's see if it works for just ATAC. Indeed, it does. Also with Atacama. Awesome. Uh, if you type in the search bar, it'll take you to it. Bookmark this page. This is where all the materials are found, and everything on here is up to date as well. So we'll run back to the slide deck and then open up the full task template. So the changes made for this are really based on a lot of reviewer feedback from our review team and ATAC feedback from the fall. So last summer, late summer, we announced that we added the task reviewer checklist to the ATAC guide to be available for ATACs. And from that, we were developing a bit of a scoring metric. So for each element that we wanted to see in the task, our review team assigned a score based on for every submission, whether this was uh, present, so that was just a 0 for score, a 1, whether it had a minor deficiency in that element, or a 2, which meant there was a major deficiency. So something was really missing from there. We looked at, and that was only on the first run. So the initial task submission, we would run through and score them and look at those scores for each project that was submitted to us. From that, it was very easy to see trends on what pieces were missing or what wasn't clear or what wasn't present in all the studies. And that process has led to the updates that we've made to the templates. So if we noticed every time, like, hey, this is missing or this is in the wrong spot, and that became a trend, that's our responsibility to address. If it was a one-off, we always took that up with the ATAC and just left them that feedback that, hey, this was missing on this project. But it's been a really useful scoring system so far for us to make these improvements and make these updates to the template. Um, and again, here down in the footer, so not on the title page, but the versioning is in the footer here. So no changes to the title. Please fill out all that information. And then the table of contents, this EEM section has been significantly expanded here. And we do use a dynamic table of contents. So all of these sections are tied to the content that's in the report. So if you put in multiple EEMs, all of this detail will populate in the table of contents if it's copied properly. No change to the contact information. This is just project background info. This table has changed a little bit. We do want to know the project area, so the part of the building that is impacted by the project. Often that's the whole building. Sometimes that's only a portion of it. Please include that in here. And then when you're looking at the building profile, include the EUI as well as the annual usage. We want that in here and in this table. Also, the estimated savings. And this should be, please be clear if this is on bill or the EEM saving. We want to make sure that that this estimated savings doesn't exceed the annual usage. While that can happen if you're looking at a project with a modified baseline where there's fuel switch happening, sometimes that electricity savings will greatly exceed what their annual usage is. We do want this to be cleared here if the baseline is existing or modified. That way, when those very extreme numbers might pop up, like, oh, you're going to save 120% of your electricity bill, it's clear that that's related to the modified baseline, not the existing in there. The measure summary section. So this should just be a summary and brief description of all the measures in here. So please collect the measure summary for everything that's in the report up here. And then the next section is the standard measures. So when you're doing site visits and working with the customer, we do want to make sure that we're identifying projects for which they could receive a prescriptive incentive. I have the prescriptive incentive application open here, and I'm going to talk about this briefly. So our program is split into two. We offer prescriptive or standard incentives, and we also offer the custom incentives. As you know, the custom incentives are all determined by a technical analysis study, which is what our ATACs are for, and this whole program is putting together those custom analyses for customers. The standard and prescriptive incentives are predetermined and prescribed. So for those opportunities, the utility customers can install that equipment and then apply for the incentive up to 90 days after purchase and installation. We have a lot of measures in here. Occasionally, we get custom projects that come in that include prescriptive measures. Generally, those are going to default to using the prescriptive application for the customer, not a custom analysis. The only time that really changes is if those prescriptive measures have pretty significant interactive effects with other measures that are being studied in custom, in which case we would want them to be included in the custom analysis. This form is available online, and I will show you how to get there. Just please take a minute to read through this sometime at your leisure, just to make sure that you're aware of the different offerings for standard incentives. So when you're working with utility customers, that these things are on your radar and you're able to advise them that, hey, you can get incentive for a commercial ductless heat pump. Just a heads up, it has nothing to do with our custom study. Or even if it's a client of yours that you're not doing a custom study, just to be aware that there are opportunities for incentives out there. And then when you put together reports, that information can go into the standard overview here, measure summary. Don't need a big description of these. A lot of that goes through the 120p. So that can be reserved for post-installation. Table with historical energy usage. This should include the last couple years for both gas, last 3 years for both gas and electric. And then the facility information description. I don't think much has changed in here. We may have added a few details to this. The detailed EM description, this is where the big changes are. So before we had existing baseline description and existing conditions in its own section, and it was kind of a combo of existing conditions, existing baseline. We've gotten rid of that section and devoted each EEM's info, like each EEM's description, to including that information. So for the relevant existing baseline or modified baseline for each measure, please include those details here and any supporting documentation or info that's needed. And then the measure description, that's the same as before, and then the savings methodology as well. Assumptions are something that become difficult to track for our review team. If you're making an assumption, we want those to be outlined here. Oftentimes this shows up when reviewing calcs and we find a number or find a value, and our reviewing team can't locate where or why or what that value is and why it's being used or where it came from. This table for assumptions here is a chance for us to see, oh, you're modeling a building and the say the building envelope changes several times from room to room or space to space, and you thought, you know what, I'm just going to average the values associated with that building envelope in my model instead of modeling, every 30-foot section or something if the fenestrations or envelope changes. And here you would write assumption uniform building envelope based on relative area for different envelope types or something. Put that in this table, just that you did that way. When our review team gets to look at this, there's a quick reference for, oh, you took these assumptions. Awesome. I will keep that in mind when I'm making my reviews. So this table has been added to the template here. And then also a nice clean space for baseline versus propose, and then measure cost, non-energy benefits if relevant, and then section for measure life too. All of these tables are available in the table document, which I will pull up after this to show. Measure summary table for each measure, they should include this with all the savings and baseline information usage. And then you're welcome to copy each of these, copy the whole EEM section for multiple projects with multiple measures. Then the calculation methodology, this would just be for overall the software that was used, whether that was spreadsheets, models, or the specific software that you're looking at, and then weather data as well, if that information is relevant. And then model calibration table here for this. I don't believe this has changed from the last one. If there are lighting and solar opportunities, we don't incentivize lighting through this program, nor do we incentivize solar through this program. Energy Trust does have plenty of incentives for in solar and then some for lighting. I know with the recent state bill, lighting incentives have changed quite a bit due to elevated code and baselines. But if you do identify these opportunities, please list them here, and then we can get the customer connected with the solar program, or if you have a connection to the solar program, go ahead and make that connection. Our energy advisors can work with you as well if you note opportunities for solar. And then the last section is next steps. This is what the participant should be doing. Remember, these reports are written for the participant, so everything in here should be for their benefit. This report is for them to understand their facility as well as the changes being made and the energy savings to be obtained. So these next steps are pretty important with how they should continue. The one bolded word on here is very important, that we need to make an incentive offer before equipment purchase or starting project work. So we want to make sure that the program is being involved early in the process, whether that's coming from one of our outreach staff or that is coming from the ATAC, that as early as possible is when we want to get started with these projects. It's helpful for getting the documentation moving and processes going on our end, as well as forecasting what the incentives could be and payments to ATACs just in general for the program. So that's still important. We do recognize that equipment timelines have extended over the past 4 years or so. So we know that can be an issue for getting things done beforehand. Please just let us know if you're working with a customer and they really can't afford to wait to purchase equipment, but you are looking to do a study, let the program know. We can definitely work with you on that. And that has been acknowledged by Energy Trust, that the equipment timelines can be variable. A lot of things can be variable right now for customers, and especially related to equipment costs. So we're going to be flexible on that. And then information on how to look at solar incentives, and then the useful life table, the EUL. So that is down here at the bottom. You will see some of the same changes reflected on the schools template when we get that finished and uploaded. Pull up the tables. So this document has been updated online too. I believe I omitted a version number from this document, so I will update this and leave a space for that here. But all of the tables from the task report are now included in this document. Here it says blended rates. So I was looking for the blended rates on the CEC tool. They're all in here in the task tables document. So you can reference these as relevant for different fuel types and water savings if that's in a non-energy benefit. And then each of the tables from the document are in here for ease of use, copying and pasting, whatever that might be. Nate, I saw you had a question there. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just pointing out Mark's question in chat, but Eric addressed it. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah, great. Thanks, Eric. I did that came up at the ATAC forum. Just reiterate that here. Then we are putting together sample tasks on the new template that highlight, like, this is what we want to see. This is what a quality report looks like. Here's all the required components. They'll be marked up and highlighted just with everything we want to see. So that'll be available for reference. Excited to have that since we haven't had that in the past. So those will get posted to the website soon and be available for reference. Great question. Thanks, Mark. The tables document also available for download on the ATAC website. All right. Moving forward here. The task checklist. This is a big change. This is a totally new document that we've added to the whole project process. Now, the task checklist is a fillable PDF that we ask the ATACs to submit with each project. So this checklist should be submitted. It is a tool to make sure that each project includes everything we need for review. This checklist is a result of that effort last fall with the task scoring and task tracking that I talked about earlier. We noticed just trends in areas where things were missing, and we wanted to make sure that when we receive, because some of them are little stuff that just might be overlooked. So we had the reviewer checklist before for your reference. Now we have the task checklist to be submitted. So this is a this PDF has all the different things that we're looking for in a task, and we will want to make sure that ATACs check those and submit them. If you're submitting a project to an energy advisor, they'll review this too to make sure that everything is present. Generally, if things are missing from this checklist, we're going to send it back pretty early to say, hey, why isn't this included with your project? As a few of you have pointed out, the first item on this list is rather unclear. It will be updated. So let me go back to that. Item number one is going to be clarified based on percentage base. So if the task savings fell below 75% of the proposal savings, that we were notified of the deviation at the time. I will cover this a little bit more in the program guide updates on the next slide. That's going to replace this first checkbox where it was EEM savings and tasks should approximately match the proposal. It was very quickly brought to my attention that approximately match is a fairly uncertain language. And what if this is a small project and we're only off by 1,000 therms? But that 1,000 therms was 30% of the total therm savings. Do I check this box? I thank you for bringing those up. We will get this updated. So it's more important that task savings are near or exceeding what was estimated on the proposal. So this whole checklist, you have boxes here. All of them should work. Just check to make sure that each item is included in the task. So using the current template, that the summary tables match the values in the individual EEM tables. All of the check marks in this first section are noted as required. So those are required things that we look for in each project. I don't think I need to read through this one by one here today. I will scroll through it so y'all can see the whole template. And then this is available on the website. Please download it, look through it when you're filling out a study. I also realized in my email with the template updates a couple of weeks ago, if you have a task in progress and you have already started filling out the Word document, please continue to use the old template. We're not asking you to restart, refill, or totally use the new template if you already had something in progress. I should have put that in the email. I had a few people ask about it. If you're already working on a study, you already have this Word doc filled out or partially filled out, continue using the old one, start your new project with the new template that's available. So all the things we want to see are marked in here as required. So please read through this and make sure that everything needed for the tasks is there for our review team. And then this whole section is for conditional items that might be relevant to the study, but not always. And then this bottom section is about the actual calculations and spreadsheet calcs that we're seeing everything in those that we need to see. And then there's one conditional note down here. And it was also noted that code minimum, I think this should be ASHRAE, it's like 62.1, I believe, not 90.1. And then it's like an and or organ energy code something as well. I've updated this bottom checklist, so this bottom check mark, so that'll be on the new version also. So please let me know if you have questions about this. If you have feedback about this document, this is there to ensure that the review process goes quickly and smoothly, and that all of your work contains everything we need for review, and we can get projects moved through faster, get them completed faster, complete the review faster, and get customers their incentive offers faster. This is making sure we're efficient with the program. Let's see. So that's the task checklist. And then the last item, this is not yet updated on the website, are updates to the ATAC program guide. So the biggest thing in here that we've touched on already is that program deviation process. So when there's been a change to the anticipated project scope, we need to know about that when it happens. So if you were going to study EEMs and at some point discover that they are not viable, or you meet unexpected site conditions, this is pretty common. These can be overcome, but we do want to know if you thought the site had trending and the customer told you, oh yeah, our BAS system is solid and we can pull trends for you. And you get there and they're like, yeah, we record 24 hours of trend data and then delete it. That would be an unexpected site condition. So please let us know if you're running into things that are going to impact the scope of work, for positive or negative. Expanded scope is great. We still want to know if you notice there's more opportunity than you thought in the proposal, and you need to expand the fee for the project. Let us know about that. But we want to know about that when it happens. What we don't want to see is receiving the final finished report and none of the EEMs meet cost effectiveness, because at that point means that we knew none of those were going to meet it, and yet the ATAC still continued with filling out the report and put the time into that. We're interested in making the best use of everyone's time. So anytime you see deviation, please let us know. The hard values here, if a project drops below 75% of the task proposal savings, ATAC should notify the program. There may be no action to take after this, but we do want to know if and when that happens. And this can be for all sorts of reasons. Many of them are likely out of all of our control. This is just a way to document changes in the projects. That way, we're covered when we put together the reports, when we package everything up, when we submit these projects to Energy Trust, and when, as we learned about at the ATAC forum, impact evaluations come around. This is all the work we do is related. So make sure everything's well documented. When you run into these scenarios, please email the energy advisor, the engineer, and EB Custom. I may add custom lead here to custom lead project engineer to let us know about that. And then we'll discuss a path forward. This could be as simple as, okay, thanks for letting us know, or could go all the way into let's cut the project short right now and modify the task fee, or perhaps we split the project up into two different tasks and just close one with the work that's already been done, pay you for your time, and then look at the other one when it's relevant. There's lots of different ways these can move forward, and we'll work with you on that. Another example, I think ATAC got on site to do a study, and then the customer said, oh yeah, we're going to open a new building, and the study was at a central plant. And they're like, we're opening a new building next year that'll be run off this plant too. So the ATAC came and told us that, like, hey, we ran into this and realized any changes we make at this plant, any updates or any calculations that we do are just not going to be accurate in 18 months. So like that was an example of, hey, thanks for letting us know about that. Just anytime you meet deviations, we want to be on top of it. Also added to the ATAC program guide will be information on the Streamline task template. The next webinar will be a walkthrough of the Streamline task and how to use it and all the components in there. The Streamline task is an Excel workbook in which the entire task is contained in the workbook. So there is no Word document or separate PDF report that gets filled out. Therefore, faster projects with fewer interactive measures and generally smaller savings in project overall. Streamline it's all implied in the name there that this is to speed things up and make work easier and reduce the time spent on projects. Um, Currently, the ATAC guide doesn't contain any information about the streamline tasks, so all that information will be updated in there. And then at the next webinar, we'll talk about how to use that workbook and walk through it. And then the last thing in the program guide, when we updated last year, we added the reviewer checklist. This is going to be updated to reflect the new task checklist that I went over to be included with each task. And then I think that's uh, everything to show today. Oh, also this document here, this is the contact information for our outreach staff and all the energy advisors. When you're doing a project, please loop in the appropriate energy advisor. I will make sure that all of you have access to this. It's another important document, and this gets updated as needed. And then I think the last thing I wanted to share, there are 3 different 100Es now. So the 100E is the project enrollment form. If you're doing work specific to multifamily, please use the multifamily form. And then if you're doing work in Washington, please use the Washington form. These are just different versions. They all contain similar information that's necessary for a project. And then it's going to show you how to find the prescriptive application. So if you go to from the Energy Trust homepage, the commercial tab, equipment update, upgrades and retrofits, and then application forms over here on the sidebar. This will bring you to the relevant 120p for the location or the work being done. So we've got 3 versions. We broke out the HVAC 120p because we have a lot of HVAC projects, and you don't often need all 30 whatever pages of this one if you're just doing HVAC work. And then if it's relevant to Washington, that's here too. But that's how you find the project forms. We're pretty much right on time. That's everything I wanted to cover today about the template updates. You're welcome to stick around if you have any questions or comments. We've got Eric and I are here, as well as a few other engineering team managers if you have questions you'd like to ask here. If not, thank you all for joining. This webinar was recorded, and I will have it available for all of you to share with your colleagues as needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That was good. Everybody's leaving because you don't have any jokes for them.
Yeah. I'll start the next one with the joke.
All right.
I did forget about that today. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Stop the recording.